Beneath the calm, sunlit waters of Florida, where coral reefs glow under golden light, a quiet threat is taking over. The lionfish, stunning enough to look harmless, glides through the ocean like a phantom. Fishermen call them the ghosts of the Caribbean. Marine biologists call them the ocean's plague. Yet the strangest part? No one truly knows how they arrived here, or how they spread so fast. In just 20 years, their population exploded from only a few scattered fish to more than 30 million across U.S. waters. A beautiful invasion, silent, relentless, unstoppable. Where the ocean was once a sanctuary of life, it is now slowly turning into a kingdom ruled by deadly elegance. The lionfish invasion of Atlantic and Caribbean waters represents one of the most ecologically significant and economically damaging marine species introductions in modern history. Understanding this biological invasion requires examining the origins and pathways of introduction, the biological characteristics that make lionfish such effective invaders, the cascading ecological impacts on reef ecosystems, the economic consequences for fisheries and coastal communities, and the control efforts attempting to manage a problem that may be fundamentally unsolvable. Lionfish are native to Indo-Pacific waters, particularly around coral reefs from the Red Sea and East Africa eastward to French Polynesia. Two species, Pteroa volitans and Pteroa miles, are involved in the Atlantic invasion, though they're difficult to distinguish and often grouped together in discussions. In their native range, these fish occupy specific ecological niches as ambush predators, controlled by natural predators, competitors, and parasites that evolved alongside them over millions of years. The introduction of lionfish to Atlantic waters almost certainly resulted from aquarium releases, though the exact timing, locations, and number of founding individuals remain uncertain. Lionfish became popular in the saltwater aquarium trade during the 1980s and 1990s due to their striking appearance, elongated fin rays creating a dramatic display, bold vertical stripes, and generally impressive visual presence. They were relatively hardy in captivity and commanded premium prices in specialty aquarium stores. The first documented sighting of lionfish in Atlantic waters occurred off the coast of Florida in 1985, though this may not represent the actual initial introduction. Additional sightings remained sporadic through the 1990s. By the early 2000s, established breeding populations were confirmed along the southeastern United States coast. The expansion accelerated dramatically thereafter, with lionfish spreading throughout the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, and along the Atlantic coast, as far north as New York and as far south as Brazil within just 2 decades. Hurricane Andrew in 1992 has been frequently cited as a potential mass release event, with the hypothesis that destroyed aquariums along the Florida coast released lionfish during the storm. However, this remains speculative. The actual pathways likely involved multiple releases by aquarium owners who either grew tired of maintaining the fish, wanted to dispose of them without euthanizing them, or failed to understand the ecological consequences of releasing non-native species. Some releases may have been intentional attempts to free fish perceived as confined, while others may have been negligent disposal of unwanted pets. Regardless of the specific introduction pathways, the founding population was probably quite small, perhaps dozens or a few hundred individuals across multiple release events. That such a small founding population could establish, survive, reproduce, and eventually number in the tens of millions demonstrates both the lionfish's biological capabilities and the vulnerability of Atlantic reef ecosystems to invasion by species lacking natural population controls. The biological characteristics of lionfish make them extraordinarily effective invasive species. They're generalist predators with broad dietary preferences, consuming small fish, crustaceans, and mollusks across a wide size range. Their hunting strategy combines patience with explosive strikes. They use their elaborate fins to herd small fish into confined spaces, then rapidly expand their mouths to create suction that draws prey in. This feeding behavior is highly effective and allows lionfish to consume prey up to 2/3 their own body length. The feeding rates are remarkable. Individual lionfish can consume dozens of small fish daily, with stomach content studies showing they can eat quantities equivalent to significant percentages of their body weight. This voracious appetite, combined with their hunting effectiveness, means even moderate lionfish densities can substantially impact prey fish populations, particularly the juvenile fish that represent future recruitment into adult populations. Lionfish reproduce prolifically through a strategy unusual among reef fish. Females produce gelatinous egg masses containing thousands of eggs that drift with currents for extended periods before hatching. A single female can spawn every few days under favorable conditions, potentially producing over 1 million eggs annually. This reproductive output, combined with egg dispersal by currents, facilitates rapid range expansion as larvae are carried to new locations where they can settle and establish new populations. The larval stage is prolonged, several weeks, allowing eggs and larvae to disperse over enormous distances carried by ocean currents. This dispersal capability explains the remarkable speed with which lionfish colonized the entire Caribbean and Western Atlantic. Populations established in Florida could produce larvae that reached the Bahamas, which in turn could source larvae reaching Jamaica, and so forth in a stepping stone pattern that rapidly covered thousands of kilometers of coastline and island chains. In their native Indo-Pacific range, lionfish populations are controlled by various factors, including predation by larger fish, competition with other predators, parasites that affect health and reproduction, and diseases that cause mortality. In Atlantic waters, most of these natural controls are absent. Few Atlantic predators recognize lionfish as prey or can safely consume them given their venomous spines. The spines contain venom that causes intense pain and tissue damage in humans and presumably in fish that attempt to eat lionfish, creating a deterrent effect. Some large predators, including certain grouper species, have been observed consuming lionfish, suggesting that predation might eventually develop as Atlantic predators learn to recognize them as food. However, predation rates observed to date remain far too low to control lionfish populations. The absence of specialized parasites and diseases that affect lionfish in their native range provides additional advantage. Atlantic lionfish populations likely experience lower disease mortality than their Indo-Pacific counterparts. The ecological impacts of lionfish on Atlantic reef ecosystems are severe and well documented through numerous scientific studies. The most direct impact involves predation on small reef fish, including juveniles of commercially and ecologically important species. Studies comparing reef fish communities before and after lionfish arrival show dramatic declines, reductions of 65 to 95% in small fish abundance on invaded reefs compared to similar reefs before invasion, or to reefs where lionfish are actively controlled. These impacts cascade through reef ecosystems in multiple ways. Herbivorous fish that graze on algae are particularly vulnerable to lionfish predation. When herbivore populations decline, algae growth accelerates unchecked. Excessive algae can smother corals, blocking light and preventing coral reproduction and growth. This shift from coral-dominated to algae-dominated reef communities represents fundamental ecosystem state change that's difficult or impossible to reverse. The loss of fish diversity affects numerous ecosystem functions. Fish play crucial roles in nutrient cycling, coral health maintenance through grazing and cleaning behaviors, and structural complexity maintenance. Simplified fish communities dominated by species that lionfish cannot easily consume represent degraded ecosystem function even if total fish biomass doesn't decline proportionally to species diversity losses. The economic impacts extend across multiple sectors. Recreational diving tourism depends heavily on reef health and fish diversity. Divers pay premium prices to visit reefs with abundant, colorful fish. Reefs degraded by lionfish invasion become less attractive diving destinations, affecting businesses dependent on dive tourism. Commercial fisheries experience impacts through reduced recruitment of economically valuable species whose juveniles are consumed by lionfish. Subsistence fishing communities dependent on reef fish for protein face food security challenges when catches decline. Quantifying these economic impacts precisely is difficult because they overlap with other stressors affecting reefs and fisheries, including climate change, overfishing, pollution, and coastal development. However, estimates suggest the economic damages from lionfish invasion in the Caribbean region alone may reach hundreds of millions of dollars annually, when tourism losses, fishery impacts, and control costs are combined. Control efforts have taken multiple approaches, all facing significant challenges and limitations. Manual removal by divers using spears represents the most common control method. Organized lionfish derbies and removal programs pay bounties or provide other incentives for capturing lionfish. In heavily targeted areas, intensive removal efforts can reduce lionfish densities and allow some recovery of native fish populations, demonstrating that control is biologically possible. However, the scale of the problem vastly exceeds the capacity of manual removal efforts. Lionfish occur across millions of square kilometers of ocean habitat, much of it too deep for recreational diving or too remote for regular access. The reproductive rates are so high that even substantial removal efforts may not exceed population replacement rates. Mathematical models suggest that controlling lionfish populations at the scale necessary to achieve meaningful ecosystem recovery would require removing 25 to 30% of the population monthly, a level of effort that's economically and logistically infeasible across large areas. Efforts to develop commercial fisheries for lionfish face challenges because the fish don't school densely or occur in concentrated areas amenable to efficient commercial fishing methods. Each fish must be individually speared, making commercial harvest economically marginal. Marketing campaigns promote lionfish as desirable food fish to create market demand that might incentivize more intensive harvest, with mixed results. The flesh is reportedly mild and acceptable, but consumer acceptance remains limited and prices don't consistently justify the harvest effort required. Research into biological control methods continues, though implementing such approaches carries risks. Training native predators to consume lionfish through conditioning programs has been attempted, showing that some predators can learn to eat lionfish. However, whether such learning spreads through predator populations and achieves control at ecologically meaningful scales remains uncertain. Introducing pathogens or parasites from lionfish native range to Atlantic populations could potentially provide biological control, but such introductions carry substantial risks of unintended consequences, including impacts on non-target species. Genetic approaches, including gene drives that could theoretically reduce lionfish reproductive success, represent future possibilities still in early research stages. Such technologies face both technical challenges and regulatory hurdles related to releasing genetically modified organisms into marine environments. The ecological and ethical complexities of attempting to eliminate or drastically reduce an established species, even an invasive one, through genetic manipulation raise profound questions without clear answers. The lionfish invasion illustrates several broader patterns relevant to understanding biological invasions and their management. The time lag between initial introduction and recognition of a problem is common. Lionfish were present in Atlantic waters for over a decade before the invasion was recognized as the major threat it represents. This delay allowed populations to establish, expand, and reach levels making eradication impossible before serious control efforts began. The role of the pet trade in facilitating invasive species introductions extends far beyond lionfish. Numerous aquatic invasive species, including various fish, plants, invertebrates, and diseases, have been introduced through aquarium releases or escapes. The ornamental plant trade similarly serves as a pathway for terrestrial invasive species. Regulating these pathways is politically and economically challenging because the industries provide livelihoods and hobbies for many people who resist restrictions. The lionfish case demonstrates that even small founding populations of well-adapted generalist species can establish and cause enormous impacts in environments lacking co-evolved natural enemies. This principle, that enemy release provides invasive species with advantages over native species, still regulated by their natural enemies, appears repeatedly in invasion biology. It suggests that preventing introductions is vastly more effective than attempting control after establishment. The irreversibility of many biological invasions is sobering. Short of somehow eliminating every lionfish from Atlantic waters, almost certainly impossible given their vast distribution and deep water populations beyond diving reach, the invasion is permanent. Atlantic reef ecosystems will likely never return to pre-invasion states. The new reality involves reef communities structured differently due to lionfish presence, with different species compositions, different food web structures, and different ecosystem functions. This permanence raises difficult questions about resource allocation and management priorities. Should substantial resources continue being devoted to lionfish control efforts that may slow but cannot reverse the invasion? Or should resources shift to addressing other reef threats where intervention might achieve more lasting benefits? Different stakeholders answer these questions differently based on their particular interests, values, and time horizons. The lionfish invasion also highlights the interconnectedness of global ecosystems through human activities. Fish collected from Indo-Pacific reefs enter international ornamental fish trade, are transported to aquarium stores in Florida, are purchased by hobbyists, eventually are released into Atlantic waters, and fundamentally alter reef ecosystems thousands of kilometers from their native range. This chain of connections demonstrates that local actions, individual decisions to release unwanted aquarium fish, can have global consequences that persist indefinitely. Looking forward, the lionfish invasion will continue as a permanent feature of Atlantic marine ecosystems. Control efforts will likely persist in high-value areas, including popular dive sites, marine protected areas, and locations with intensive tourism or fishery interests. The hope is that over time, Atlantic predators may increasingly consume lionfish, providing some level of natural control, though current evidence suggests this remains more hope than expectation. Continued research into more effective control methods may eventually provide tools currently unavailable. The broader lesson involves prevention, preventing future introductions of potentially invasive species through better regulation of trade pathways, public education about the consequences of releasing non-native species, and responsible practices by industries whose activities create invasion risks represents the most effective approach to avoiding future lionfish scale disasters. The economic and ecological costs of the lionfish invasion, already in hundreds of millions of dollars and rising with immeasurable ecological losses, vastly exceed what prevention efforts would have cost. The lionfish swimming across Caribbean reefs, consuming juvenile fish, reproducing prolifically, and fundamentally altering ecosystem structure, represents a lasting monument to the unintended consequences of human activities connecting global ecosystems. It serves as a warning about the risks of introducing species into environments where they lack natural controls, and as a reminder that some mistakes cannot be undone, only managed imperfectly at great ongoing cost.